today we are going to do a podcast on machine learning and AI. Our first speaker is Chandra Khatri. He is the lead research scientist at Uber AI, driving conversational and multimodal AI. Prior to Uber, he was the lead scientist at Alexa, Amazon, where he was driving the Alexa Prize Challenge, a $3.5 million annual competition for building open domain and natural conversational agents, which is considered as the hardest AI problem. I would also like to mention that Chandra has been featured in the distinguished BITSA 30 under 30 in 2019. He did his graduation from Pilani in 2012 in civil, and afterwards he went on to do machine learning graduation from Georgia Tech. Our second speaker for today is Yash Gandhi, co-founder and CTO of GrowthPal, a data intelligence platform for venture capital and investment banking. After completing chemical engineering from BITS, he graduated with MS in operations research from Purdue and worked as kernel developer at Wolfram's Research before moving back to India. He pursued a couple of entrepreneurial ventures before joining HelpShift in early 2017, where he led the data science and machine learning efforts for 3 years. He is listed as an inventor on 3 patent applications filed by HelpShift, including invention of a novel algorithm for classification. So, Yash, I would
Mm-hmm.
like to go to our first question for today.
Okay.
How pervasive is ML in industries and how is it impacting the business world?
Uh, so I'll start with about 3-4 years back when I first basically started my work at HelpShift. And at that time, from my observance, ML was just a black box, and people were really afraid of bringing in anything which had to do with machine learning or data science or artificial intelligence at that point of time. And the apprehension was really about uh, not being able to fully comprehend how this AI is going to behave. So we have had some examples from Microsoft, the Twitter bot that Microsoft had created, which became incredibly racist about 4 or 5 hours after it was launched. We had some examples from Google where it had started recognizing African American people as you know gorillas and apes. So basically industry was, and with these examples, people who did not understand machine learning or AI, they were really apprehensive about using it. And I remember even at HelpShift, the decision that we had taken was we were going to be very conservative with our AI. We wanted our AI to be explainable. We wanted to be very pragmatic. We didn't want to basically do everything in AI. We just wanted to do whatever was in our control. We wanted to make sure that even if an algorithm goes out into development, if it goes out in wild, we should know how to control it. We should know how to basically, uh, if there is a certain result which is coming out, we should know where things are going out and why things are behaving in certain manner. So, industry really has moved on from there. They understand it better. People have started to pursue data science as a career option. It was declared as a sexiest job of 21st century about 7-8 years back, 9 years back when I was in my grad school. But now people have started to adopt it. People have started to think about more bringing in more automation in the workspace. So the perception has moved, certainly, and people are taking in AI with more open minds. I mean, yeah, that's that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Yash. You touched a crucial point about AI behaving like a black box. We will discuss that later on. Chandra, what would you like to add to it, or is there any project that you are excited about that that shows how ML is pervading the industries today?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with what Yash said. But a couple of points which I'd like to add to what he said and also to what you asked. I think what AI and machine learning has been primarily focused, or only top 5 or 10 companies and top universities have been driving it and being able to advance it to the level that people could use it. But now it's becoming more pervasive. And as Yash said, data science has become the word, and then everyone is jumping into it, and now it is becoming more hands-on with tools and with the kind of resources available. So I think the projects which I'm more excited about right now, I think that within AI or machine learning, usually machine learning is the technique, but AI is sort of the one which leads to the application. So I think there are 3 or 4 different verticals within AI, where reasonable solutions are being able to made for. One is conversational AI, for which I think Alexa and what Alexa, Google, mostly I would say Alexa has been the frontier there. So what Alexa is doing. Then there is vision. I think in vision, it would be mostly Google, Facebook as well, but primarily Google. Google is doing a lot of work in vision and visual search. And some of the examples which Yash also mentioned, yes, there are problems with that and have been, and even now those problems exist and will exist, I would say. But I think from visual perspective, Google, Waymo, and when we go visual, there is Waymo comes into picture, or driverless cars. There are other key players as well, but I would say Waymo and Tesla. So they are leading the front there. Then there comes control systems and robotics. Again, there is Google and probably Tesla as well there. And then I think and then there is another field which is finding the cause of the universe or this existence, where then NASA is playing a lot of role there, which involves not only visual but mostly a lot of physics as well. So you will see applications of AI and machine learning within astronomy, within all those, identifying all those, black holes and all those things. So I think these are the 3 or 4 different verticals where a lot of large scale AI is being driven, and solutions are coming up, which is impacting all of our lives.
Thank you, Chandra. Since you guys touched upon the black box concept and examples like TwitterBot, I would like to ask you that deep learning are black box algorithms. Do you think they should be used in real world applications that have wide ranging impacts? For example, you talked about Waymo and
Mm-hmm.
Tesla using
Mm-hmm.
driverless cars.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could elucidate this uh, in case of driverless cars and maybe onto a more general scenario, Chandra.
I think we should be using deep learning, but as Yash pointed out, now we should be focusing on explainable AI. Let's say if Amazon is recommending something to me, right, or let's say Flipkart, I do not care about what that algorithm is, because it is not going to be uh, causing any kind of problem per se. If it's a wrong recommendation, it's a wrong recommendation. But let's say if someone is doing cancer detection, or maybe driverless car, where a car is supposed to stop or drive based on the environment, things become more critical. There are stakes are much higher compared to what a recommendation, what you'll see, search and recommendation. So uh, and that's why I would say that explainability becomes much more important there. And Yash also mentioned that there are tools now, and there has been good amount of research being done there, and also as DARPA led a challenge, I think last year, 2018, 2019, the challenge was about when you try to, there is a trade-off between accuracy or performance versus explainability, as you tend to explain models, or build models which can be explainable, which are explainable, the performance tend to decrease. But the challenge has been, can you still get similar performance with explainable solutions? And I think now that those things are coming out and those tools are coming out and people have showcased. In fact, some of my work as well I've been doing is around centered around explainable AI, because to your point, when you solve those critical problems where you need to explain this, give the rationale to your customers or consumers, uh, such as identifying a disease, then in that case, and even for doctors to learn, what happens is usually uh, usually what previously used to happen is AI and machine learning was focusing mostly on the features, hand engineered features, which was traditional machine learning. So, like doctors or anyone, let's say in the field of healthcare, doctors will give you some kind of features, and then we will use those features to build the models. But now things have changed other way around with deep learning. Basically, feed all the data. Deep learning will give you a solution, and then you then try to interpret that. And what we have found out, or what researchers have found out, that we are able to find new features or new attributes which were previously unknown, and then those things are actually helping out doctors or anyone, whoever the consumer the application is. So deep learning, even though seems like a black box, it is black box for most. But when you try to explain it, it can actually come up with new attributes which were never known before. So we discover new attributes with deep learning with this black box, because there, of course, and as different applications, there are different applications. We time to time we find new attributes which sort of help and advance the field. But with deep learning, which is completely data driven, you will be able to find those attributes which were previously unknown.
Excellent. Explainable AI. Nice.
Yeah, so I totally agree with Chandra over here. Deep learning should be used, but the idea should always be that we are taking out the robotic element out of humans by using any sort of AI, by using deep learning or whatever. So if there is a robotic element where a person is repeating a task again and again and again, which can be automated by a deep learning algorithm or a machine learning algorithm, any sort of a classical machine learning algorithm, then AI is really helpful. But if you're trying to, if you want to build a completely automated system, that's not where we are right now, and it will take time. To understand this better, the cars were always manual; they were always stick shift, and suddenly there came a revolution where car became automatic, and that revolution, and it wasn't instant. It took 50 years to the car to become an automatic car, and then it took about 30-40 years for us to start thinking that, hey, we can have driverless cars now. So it should take time. It should take time for the idea to sit on our imagination, to basically understand things better. If we basically just launch a product which is completely automated without even testing it with actual humans, we are not really justifying our work, or even at some point we may as well increase the work of humans by just making it not understandable by them. So it should take time. It should have its own course of action. So, well, a black box only works well if it's able to assist humans and not replace them.
Yes, I agree.
Interesting opinion. So, Yash, I believe you have answered to a degree. Does our limited understanding of how these black box algorithms work hinder our degree of control over the outcome?
Of course. I mean, I really believe that since we do not understand them totally, we are not able to have a complete control on what's going on. So, let's say, for example, for a task which is as simple as just classification, we are just doing some sort of classification on text, or some sort of clustering on text. A classical machine learning algorithm, for example, will give you, let's say, a fair amount of accuracy, a fair degree of control on what's going on, and on top of that, it will be very quick to train. Take, for example, in a deep learning algorithm for such a simple use case, what you would be doing is you will be using a lot of computational power. You will be giving a lot, and this particular deep learning algorithm will require a humongous amount of data, because if you give a small amount of data, it will tend to overfit the algorithm to that amount of data and give you better accuracy. But that accuracy might as well be just a couple of percentage points, or maybe 4 or 5 percentage point over a simple classical machine learning algorithm. And for such cases, what you're doing is you're bringing out a knife, or bringing out a sword where you just would have cut that butter with a knife. So you really need to decide what your tools are. Do you really need a sword at this point of time, or a simple butter knife would do your job? So it's basically, not having a complete understanding will make people to bring out a sword. But if you really know what's going on, and if you really understand what's really required at that particular time, you can take a decision on your tools. And in the end, these are just tools. A tool can only help you to a certain extent until you really know how the tool works.
Okay, Chandra, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I agree with most of what Yash said. I think uh, there are applications where deep learning or more black box solutions are overkill. I totally agree with that. But there are solutions, there are problems where, and given enough data, I think we could leverage deep learning as much as we can. And I've significantly seen performance improvement, not only in just text or conversational AI, but I've seen across the board. The reason is, I can give an example. Humans, we do not know how our brain works, how our body works. We do not even know. I would say, we just know 1 or 2% of this entire body. And same thing with the entire existence, this universe. We don't know what's actually, we don't even know whether all the theories are right or wrong, but still things work. We are able to build things over, we are able to build tools which work wonders, So we do not need to always be able to understand how, what's behind the wheels. If it's doing the job, yes, but we need to be, of course, conscious about what it will do, what are the implications, and how much it's going to impact. So I think we need to decide on stakes versus, when I'm saying stakes, as in how much potential negative impacts it can have versus how much accuracy or how much resources it needs. Of course, these deep learning or black box, mostly this new advanced models, they're so much complex. It's very hard to explain them. We don't know what's coming out. So we need to spend a lot more time to be able to comprehend the solution, why certain solutions are coming out. So I would say that uh, explainable is needed. Being able to understand and being able to understand the application of it, uh, it's needed, but not always. I mean, leave machine learning, leave AI, leave all the science alone. This entire existence, we don't know what it is, but still everything is working fine. So we need to build this thing. As I said, you need to identify how high the stakes are. If we are going with economy, like building solutions which are going to be really impactful for economy, such as COVID right now, right? COVID and Corona virus things, what it has caused havoc. For those, yes, we need explainable solutions because, of course, a deep learning or black box based model might say something, but, we cannot simply rely on that. We need to be able to comprehend and then basically take a decision because that is going to change the face of the, not just one nation, but all the nations here, right? So I would say for those, yes. But if you're building something else, such as text understanding or, visual understanding, for that, probably I do not really, we don't need to dive deep as much. If it is doing our job well and if it is not having a lot of negative impacts, then yes, why not? Yes, go ahead. And with these data-driven solutions or data-driven models, you can essentially, there are new class of algorithms coming up now, such as self-supervised learning. There has been semi-supervised learning, but now it's coming out as self-supervised learning, which is close to reinforcement learning and also close to supervised learning or something close to what humans do, where, we see some examples, we learn from them, but there was no explicit label for it. There was no explicit target for it, such as, my task was to, as humans, if you look at the evolution of a kid, if a kid evolves as an adult, or grows as an adult, there are many things which a kid learns, right? Even though the primary task has been to eat or study or play and things like that, but there are many things which a kid learns, which were auxiliary. So, but then those auxiliary tasks sort of help us understand or help a kid understand much better than what a particular task was. So the point I'm trying to say is that, with this self-supervised learning, or those kind of things, you do not need labels. And when you do not need labels, you can learn much more than or much better than what you would have done with supervised learning, where you are actually providing the data and then there are biases in the data. The reason why they bought the one which Yash explained or gave an example of Microsoft bot doing not well, and same thing with Google's visual recognition system, where African American people were being recommended as, either, criminals or, what they call it as, chimpanzees. So I would say that those things are happening because there is bias in the data. But with the self-supervised learning, actually, they go beyond that because you do not provide label for it explicitly, but these models or these agents are learning things by themselves without explicitly learning the biases in the data. So I would say we do not need to always have explainable system. until the stakes are high.
Thank you, Chandra. That answers the question that algorithms are trained from label data which may contain bias, and the resulting predictions have this bias as well. And how are we tackling this today?